Tim and Margaret about sourcing from India. So without further ado, Meghla, can you do an introduction, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Meghla Bhardwaj, based in Singapore. I've been working in the sourcing industry for almost 20 years, mostly with B2B sourcing platform Global Sources. And I organize a guided tour for e-commerce and Amazon sellers to Delhi called India Sourcing Trip. And I also run a Facebook group.
Excellent. Over to you, Tim.
I own a series of gas stations that specialize in the Wildlife Restoration Act. I'm also a shipping captain, specializing in human trafficking and drug running, and I occasionally pretend to know something about e-commerce on webinars.
Blimey, that is one introduction. Teddy, this is your first time on the show. Have you got anything that you can upscale Tim on?
Yeah, I was not really sure how to follow that one. So I'm Teddy. I've been selling on Amazon for a few years now, but I source all my products from India and Vietnam. So I've been been going out to trade shows, especially in Delhi, to go and source products. I like mostly handicraft products, and I'm a real convert to India. I think it's amazing. I'm really looking forward to talking about it today. And I've also got an agency where we, optimize Amazon listings and help people to get up and running online as well.
Cool. Margaret, over to you. It's very late over there in Victoria, right?
It's 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:02.
Yes.
1 o'clock. It's all right. I've had a cat nap, so I'm okay.
Excellent. A little bit of background on you, please.
Well, look, I suppose I'm semi-retired a few years ago and got a bit bored. We'd had our own businesses and things, and I discovered Amazon, started selling out of China, found India at a trade fair, and I have fallen in love with India. So I have, been over there with Meghla on the sourcing trip and doing coaching with people from India. So, yeah, and just love India.
Excellent. Okay, first questions we might as well kick off with is let's do a comparison to sourcing in China. Very easy to get the resources to find for China. Starting with you, Meghla, what is the first point of entry if people just from today want to go and source from India? What are the steps they would need to take?
Yeah, so the first step is if you know what kind of product you're looking for, then you would go to a supplier directory like Alibaba or Global Sources, do a search for the product there, and then use the country location filter to find suppliers from India. Because Alibaba and Global Sources, they are export-focused directories, and they do have offices in India. In fact, I started working for Global Sources in India in the year 2000, so that was 20 years ago. So Global Sources have been very active in India. And so that's the first thing that you would do, try to look for suppliers there. There are also some local directories, like India Mart is one directory. I would generally avoid that directory because there are a lot of companies that cater to the domestic market on that directory as well. So, there are manufacturers, exporters, but there are also wholesalers, trading companies, importers that actually buy products maybe from China and then sell them to the domestic market. So you just have to vet your suppliers really well. Then the other thing that I would do is look for exhibitors at trade shows. So, for example, the Delhi Fair that Teddy just mentioned, that is one of the most important export-focused fairs that's held in India, and it's known as the Canton Fair of India. So, and their exhibitor list is online. So you can just search for Delhi Fair exhibitor list and then download that list. And the thing about sourcing from India is you want to make sure you're sourcing from export-focused suppliers that have export experience. Because if they haven't exported before, then the quality might be an issue, and in fact they might not be able to ship the products outside the country as well because they don't have an import-export code, and it just gets complicated.
Makes sense. Tim, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, what was the exact question? Meghla went on so long, I've completely lost track of the question. No, I'm just kidding.
You should have been paying attention.
All right,
You're not paying attention.
I am paying attention, and I'm actually going to disagree a little bit with Meghla, just for my own personal style. My personal style, the first step, become familiar with what type of products you want, right? Because there are so many people that think that India is the new China. So people get frustrated because they're like, oh, I tried to source in India, it didn't work. The first product I ever tried to source from India was a rechargeable power bank. Like, remember 5 years ago when the cell phone power banks were good? And I heard through a friend of a friend of a friend, they had to contact India to make these things. And I got super frustrated with India, but the problem was I was trying to source the wrong product. Like electronics are not something you go to India.
You go to
for. So
Shenzhen for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So the first step is determine if your product is a good India, product. And then for me, the next step is not trying to go to the factories; it's going to sourcing agents. Sourcing agents sometimes get a bad rap. People are like, oh, they upcharge everything. Well, no crap. They got to make their money too. Of course, they're going to upcharge it. But frequently, they can negotiate a lower rate than I could. So by the time their fees are added on, it's essentially the same price I would pay. And even if it is a little extra, I'm paying them for their service. They're doing the work. Many of the factories in India, at least from my experience, similar to China, they don't have export departments. They don't have really good sales staff. They don't have great communication skills. They don't even know how to ship this stuff out or how to package it. So the sourcing agent is like that link that we need, right? So for me, the first step is qualify the product, make sure it is a good India product, then throw it to several sourcing agents and let them just do a mass outreach to all of their contacts and their lists and come back with the best options they can find.
Sounds good. We'll come back to sourcing agents. I want to delve more a bit later. Teddy, over to you. Is there anything you want to add here?
Yeah, so I mean, there's no getting away from it. Sourcing from China is a bit of an easier process, especially for beginners. But I think you can use that difficulty almost to your advantage. You can find, I think, suppliers which are much more interesting, of a really high quality, by going to India and finding some of those more niche manufacturers that you might not
using
find
a barrier to
just from
entry.
Alibaba.
Because everyone wants the easy route. You're saying with that barrier to entry makes the difference.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, that my products are really high quality. I don't sell anything below $30, just for example. So I find that the quality of the workmanship and finding difficult manufacturers actually to my advantage. And I think what Meghla touched on with the going to the trade shows is amazing. That Delhi trade show is like the best shop ever. It's just you can't buy anything. It's like you want to just buy something, but they say no. You have to buy 100. I'm like, no, can I just have one? And they're like, no. But yeah, it's amazing. I was actually in one of the stalls I was in. I was in one of the stalls. I was telling this story yesterday. I was talking to the owner of the company, and the manager of the company was talking to someone else, and I overheard that he was the head buyer for John Lewis. So I thought, you know what, I'm in the right place.
Yeah, makes sense. Margaret, do you want to add anything onto this?
Well, look, yeah, we actually found our supplier and how we turned to India. We were on our way to Canton Fair, and we stopped in Hong Kong for a couple of days, and the mega fair was on down the road. So we just moseyed on in and had a wander and stumbled across our Indian suppliers. I just fell in love with the material. I just walked past and went, my God, I'm in love with all his products. And we spent probably 3 days going back and forwards with the family at the fair, and already sort of found them so much easier to make a relationship with. It wasn't like going to Canton and being sort of heckled and, finding sort of different quality of the same product stall after stall after stall and trying to work out, what you were really getting. And from there, we basically never ordered from China again. We got to Canton and I went, I don't even know why we've come over here. We ended up going shopping around, in Guangzhou for a day because we weren't interested anymore. We'd sort of found something different. And it's just from there on, our supplier has just been a dream. He is like part of our family now. We, speak to each other for our birthdays, Christmas, Easter. We get on and have Zoom calls. So it's become a real relationship. And I think that's the difference between China. That would never happen. I mean, we went over there last year to the Delhi Fair, but we went up to Moradabad first, and we were welcomed into their home for dinner every night, lunch every day. We've now not to stay anywhere but their home. Next time we go back, we've seen this is your bedroom when you come back next year. So I just think it's totally different. They're a lot friendlier, and I just feel more trusting. I wouldn't say it's like every country in the world, there's always a few sort of sly people around, but I just find that dealing with the Indian people and having more to deal with them now with the biz show and interviewing a lot of suppliers, they're just all fantastic. I mean, I haven't struck one that we get off the call and go, oh, yuck, it's just we've met another lovely family, because that's usually what it is. It's a nice family in most cases.
Yeah. So cultural differences, Meghla, do you want to kick off? You've done a lot of work with both, haven't you? With trade, global sources and stuff. You've worked with a lot there in Hong Kong and China. What would you say culturally the standouts for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things is relationships are really important. Of course, in China too, the relationships are important with the supplier. There's a term for it, guanxi and all. But in India, I feel it just goes to another level. Like Marg was saying, the supplier is inviting her to, their home, and they're treating you like family. So I think once you develop that kind of relationship, trust with the supplier, then of course, you're getting better terms, you're getting priority treatment. They're responding to your calls, and you're just giving you better or faster information. And I think so. That's one thing that's super important, relationships. And the other thing is, I think in India, you got to be a bit respectful, to various things. So first of all, if somebody is like an elder person in the family, that person needs to be respected more. And usually in India, you'll find that a lot of the businesses are family run businesses, so you'll have 2 to 3 generations at a stall in an exhibition, for example. So I mean, there's a lot of respect given to the elderly. And I think that's about it. That's all I can think of right now.
Any observations from you when you compare dealing with Chinese versus over in India culturally? Is there anything that stood out for you?
Oh, absolutely. The Indians are way better dancers.
Are they?
Listen, I can't dance to save my life, but you put me on like a Bollywood stage. Yeah, you have seen it. It's look, my dancing in London with you was nothing.
Well, you weren't dancing with me. Let's be clear. You were dancing in the vicinity, in the same room as me, but you weren't dancing with me. Let's get that straight.
All right, when our hips are touching, you can't deny that. All right, the vibe was in the air. It was great, but like. It's ugly. Like, you did have me in the back of the room, like hiding me in the back corner of this place. But Meghla was like, Tim, Bollywood style dancing is your jam. She put me on stage in front of a bunch of strangers, and I crushed it. It was amazing. Really? So that's cultural.
Meg, have you got any video content of that, please?
I do.
Just for later on.
Totally.
The other thing is, Indian food is kind of like eating hot lava. Like, you tell them not spicy, and then your mouth is just melting. That's terrible. But in all seriousness, I feel like the pace in India is slower, and it's not like less urgent. It's not like people are, being apathetic. It's just everything's a little bit slower, a little more respectful, a little bit more like just kind of down to earth. In China, everybody is just like working 30-hour days, and it's just talk fast, move fast, drive fast, everything. In India, it's more like, hey, let's just have this like general conversation. Let's move on to a business deal. Let's get the products made. It's like there's not as much of a sense of urgency. And that can be mistranslated to, oh, they don't take this serious. They're not go-getters. They're not hustlers. That's not true. Everything's just a little slower and more conservative, right? Everything is just a little bit more conservative in everything from the business deals to, like Meghla was saying, the interactions that they have with their own family members.
Makes sense. Teddy, you got anything to add here?
Yeah, I agree with Tim that the pace is a little bit slower. Like, I find like it takes more like, in China, they can turn around things in sort of 20 days often, whereas in India, I find it's more like 30 to 40 days. But I find the quality is so high, and a lot of the stuff is, handmade. I don't expect it to be, it's not like plastic stuff that you get in China. It's mostly like really nice materials like marble and brass and copper and seagrass and things like this. So I'm not expecting it to be turned around in like 20 days like I would with China. So it is a bit of a different experience, certainly. But one thing that I found with the cultural differences is I think that a lot of Indian manufacturers are a little bit less understanding of what Amazon is at first. So what I just made sure was that my requirements were like really written down and mapped out with drawings, and everything was like very like watertight, just to make sure that there could be no like misunderstanding. And I think in China, maybe they're a bit more used to things like, the packaging requirements for Amazon that you kind of have to explain more to your Indian suppliers. But that goes back to my first point about finding difficult suppliers. Like, I use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Margaret, anything to add here?
Yeah, look, I think that being with an Indian supplier for a little while, that they do take things a little bit slow. And we've actually been to our factory and spent a day there and seen how the workers work. And it's more like, I suppose, once again, a family environment. Like, each family might do a skill. One family might do the polishing. One family might do something else. And they aren't like under pressure. It's not a production line rushing through. They're just sort of sitting on the floor in some instances, maneuvering what they're doing or just working very slowly. But I don't find it's worth the effort of waiting a little bit longer to get your products that are handmade, that are unique, that you can actually have that backstory in your, Amazon listing. And you've got more to sell than, mass-produced in China, handmade in India by an artisan craftsman, and they really are. And look, I feel so bad because I didn't realise we have a lot of silver blades and things on some of our products that have to be hand polished. And when we got there, the guy does every single one, and it takes about 5 minutes. And like I'd sort of say, "Oh, can you just throw me another 500 of those?" And then there's 4 of them, and I go, "Oh my God!" I felt so bad thinking I just, can you throw another few of those in the next shipment? But now knowing that this poor man's standing there doing every one, so I think that's once you see that, you can appreciate. But the quality of that polishing compared to a machine polished thing out of China is just, they're not even on the same page. So I think new people to India are going to struggle a bit with a 60 or 80 day turnaround on a product that's sort of really handmade. But when they see what they get for their money, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I'm going to say a few hellos. Sing's here, Louise, Dominic, hello, Anna. Herb is back. Juan is here. Johan, Luke, Rob is also here as well. Saibi says, hi, all this is going to be very interesting. China's looking more and more shaky, and India has so much to offer. Following up with, India has the advantage of being English speaking. And Juan says, woohoo, Tim Jordan in the house, Danny McMillan. Big hug to you as well. Juan, you've left the other guys out, so send them hugs as well.
Yeah, thanks, Juan.
Let's talk inspections. Very easy to find people, not always great, but it's very easy to find inspection companies for China. You've got to vet them, of course. What kind of difficulties, or where would you find an inspection team? Kicking off with you, Meghla, for India.
Yes, there are different types of companies. I mean, third-party inspection companies. So there's QIMA, QIMA. So they were Asia Inspection previously. So they have offices in India and they do inspections. And the rate is also the same that they offer in China. And then there's also VTrust, which is actually a Chinese company, and they have offices in India. So they do inspections, again, same rate that they charge in China. And then there are also local inspection companies in India that you can contact. A lot of times, if you're sourcing by a sourcing agent, they will do the pre-shipment inspection for you, and they will also do pre-production inspection. So that's one other advantage of using a sourcing agent. So they'll manage all of the QC and inspections for you. And sometimes I find that people don't use inspection agencies at all. I mean, Margaret will maybe talk about this. Yeah. She hasn't used a sourcing agent or a QC inspection company at all since the time she's been sourcing from there. So I think they just depend on the supplier to send photos, videos, and trust them to make sure everything is okay.
Cool. Tim, any take on QC for you for India?
Yeah, it's nothing special. With India, it's kind of the same inspection process that you would use anywhere. Inspect,
standardized. Yeah,
it's very, very standardized. I will say that one thing with inspections is let your inspection company, whoever it is, communicate directly with your factory, because things being slower in India and rainy roads will slow down traffic, and like anything can happen. So I could get very frustrated if I'm like, oh, be there next Tuesday. They said it would be ready Tuesday to inspect. Just let the factory talk to the inspector and let them work out when it's. So if there's a delay, I'm not getting all frustrated.
Yeah, makes sense. Teddy?
So what I do often with my factories, most of them I've met them at trade shows, but if I haven't, then I try and have a Skype call and have a look around there. They often give me a tour of their factory, so you get to see what's it looking like and going on around there, which I find really helpful. And we do a lot of like Skype call inspections too. And there's a guy, Konark Ogra, he has a company called Rural Handmade, and they have like inspectors down in their company as well, who I've used before. And I've got really good results from them. So yeah, I don't think it's any different from the Chinese process, to be honest. Just got to make sure you know who it is you're getting the inspection from.
Yeah. Margaret, obviously you don't use them, but have you been caught out on a quality level for not using inspection?
No, we've been very, very, or maybe lucky, but all the products we've so far done. Well, we've got 11 products with our supplier, same supplier at the moment. And the only issue we've had was with one product, and it's not anything that they've made. It's when it goes into the box, it's perfect, but it just rubs on the sea journey and getting thrown around Amazon. We have a couple of little rubs with where the box, which we've actually redesigned that with some foam. But that's the only problem that we've had with any quality issues. And I think we noticed that when we were at the very first time we met them, and like they had a showroom full of different products and everything was just so well made and such good quality. And so we spend a lot of time. I've got a Zoom meeting with our supplier at 9 o'clock in the morning just to check over how something's going in a box, a new product. And we do that constantly. We'll, we probably speak to him once or twice a week, but, we're always checking, can you show me that handle that you've done? Or, and he'll just go through, walk around and open all the boxes, and he'll say, pick 5 boxes and I'll open them for you. So we can just do a spot check with him, and then he'll take that one out and show us the whole product on screen. So it's worked well for us. And I think we've got such a relationship now that, and in fact, the father has said to us that he would hold a shipment up and lose money in preference to sending something that wasn't 100%. So they've sort of, given us a guarantee that they really take pride in what they do.
Yeah, makes sense. Tim, throwing it back to you, sourcing agents. Walk us through the process, how you would secure one, or how did you secure yours, for instance, for India?
So I actually got lucky and found a guy who was an American that moved over there. And he's the first one I started using. And he's got a group of Americans that live in India now and just started doing the networking thing for their own products. And they were selling on Amazon. They realized, hey, we've got a sourcing company here. Aside from that, if people want like advice on how to find sourcing agents, get in Meghla's Facebook group, the India Sourcing Facebook group. Everybody listening to this, go and join that group now. There's a bunch of active sourcing agents in there that Meghla actually, let's say, keeps a tight rein on
them. She micromanages them.
She looks all sweet and cute and innocent, but Meghla's actually pretty savage, and she kicks people out of groups. I'm pretty sure she's hired the Indian mafia to break. She's had
to ban you a couple of times, isn't she, for your behaviour?
She's sent some henchmen over to threaten me at least. But Meghla has in all seriousness, Meghla has some pretty good resources, and she likes to share those resources, and she keeps up to date with the new folks that are popping up that are good, and will advise people, hey, this person may be good, but they're just so overwhelmed with work right now, I wouldn't pass any more stuff to them. So Meghla's now my go-to for recommendations.
Cool. Teddy, do you use Sourcing Agent at all?
No, I've never used Sourcing Agent. As I said, I've just used I go to the shows and meet people directly, which I find is the best way to do it. But if you can't go out, just I try to have phone calls with people. I source them. I have used some of the websites like IndiaMart and stuff like that before, and there's Rural Handmade, which is quite good. But yeah, as Tim said, Meghla's group is really good for finding people. I found one person through there.
Excellent. Margaret, obviously it's not a situation for you. Negotiations. Let's start with you, Margaret. What's a typical negotiation for you when you speak to suppliers from India?
Probably a lot different to China. We usually, especially when it comes to price, I don't negotiate and say I have to have this for $5. I ask them to make it, come back to me with a price, and I haven't really gone back to my supplier much on it. Usually what I do is I do a test sort of, I suppose, of, the first 500 or 1,000. And if it's going to be a long-term product, I will then go back and say, okay, we're going to be ordering these, in a lot bigger volume. Can we now negotiate a price? And it's never been an issue. And I find we just now get a price that includes all the packaging we want, the shipping to the port, everything's just included in our price. And I usually in my mind have a price that I want for everything before I sort of go ahead. And so far it's never really exceeded, we've never had to sort of haggle. And I don't think I would haggle to save $1 on a handmade product for what I can get for it. Most of our products are over $40. So it's not worth me haggling for $1 to get something that's going to have, a lot less weight in it or just be not as well made. Which is what happens in China. I mean, if you ask for $1 off, you get $1 less in whatever you're having made in your materials or something. So, yeah, I don't think it's not hard. And because of the language, it's so much easier to speak to them. They understand what we're saying. We don't have any of those issues. So I don't find negotiating with them as hard at all, except when they shake their head.
The thing is, like you just said, it's interesting. You literally don't negotiate. You don't ask for a price up front. You get them to make the sample, and then what is the price? That's an interesting concept, the way of working, because there's obviously a lot of work involved beforehand to make sure that you know that the price is going to work. So it is an interesting way of looking at it, because I suppose if they've made the sample, they really want your business. So they may have a different mindset in terms of when they offer that price to you or not. I don't know. Meghla, what's your negotiation type of tactics that you use?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would say is negotiate for other things apart from price. So, like include the packaging in the order, or maybe the inserts, or add some features, or maybe a special type of finish or whatever. So, lead times, that's a big one that you can negotiate too. MOQs, especially when you're starting out. So yeah, I would say definitely negotiate. And I haven't seen, generally professional, experienced exporters inflating prices that much. I mean, of course, there may be companies that do that, but I haven't come across anybody that, where I feel that the price is like really, really high, and I need to go back and say that, oh my God, this is just, too ridiculously high. So yeah, but definitely you should negotiate, but try to ask for other things instead of just like a price decrease.
Tim, other than belly dancing and stuff, what do you negotiate on?
MOQ.
Yeah.
The MOQ there is like ridiculously low typically. And when it comes to price, what I've found, and maybe I'm sensitive to this, but what I've found is that a lot of people right now are desperate for work, all right, outside of China. So, I used to source a lot of products in Latin America, and they were so desperate for work, so desperate for income, that I could basically name a price and they'd say yes, even if I knew they were going to lose their tails on it, right? So I've gotten to the point where I have determined, like, I'm not going to negotiate on price. Sometimes I'll even tell them, hey, I think you're undercutting this, like, let's bump it up a little bit more. So like what Margaret was saying, I let them give me a price, because usually after the sample, like, let them determine what fair profit margins are, because the truth is, I may get a really good deal on the first order, but they're not going to continue to do orders for me. Like, long term, that's not good. I want them to be profitable and me also be profitable. But on MOQs, because the nature of India is that things are so like handmade or custom, not necessarily handmade, custom made, custom set up, they don't have molds, they don't have huge assembly lines they have to retool and rework and stop what they're doing. So if they're quoting me 500 units, I can usually get them down to 100, and it doesn't matter to them. Like at the Delhi Fair last year, I was shocked. These super custom, super nice products. I'd say, what's the MOQ? And they'd say, I don't know, 25 units, 50 units. And I was shocked. And it's just because the nature of their assembly systems, they don't have to adjust much. So for me, I try to keep price about the way it was, but I will.
So what you're saying, rather than at scale, the cost per unit is generally the cost of a unit, whether it's 100 or 500, because of the customization part of it. Is that right?
Yeah, on the labor, materials could be less, and that's another thing about India is if you're having stuff made in India, you're likely getting stuff that's made in China. And what I mean by that is a lot of the raw materials still come from China. Okay, so like if I order a purse with a zipper, the zipper is probably not made in India. The zipper is made from China. The thread may be from China, right? So they're using raw materials and putting them together. So in India, yes, it's the labor. Now, if that's the big variable. Now, if I am trying to get an MOQ of 50 versus an MOQ of 5,000 of something, they can reduce their material costs because they're ordering 5,000 zippers instead of 50. So there definitely is some price variation when it comes to MOQ changes. But when it's majority of it's just labor related, or they're sourcing those products from wholesalers in India anyways, you can get some really low MOQs. Nice.
And so you got a man purse. Did you get one made especially?
I've got a few.
Nice. Teddy, let's we'll go around the room, but starting with you, Teddy. Let's talk about, give a load of examples of the type of products, so people that are listening, they get an idea of what can be made there. So do you want to run off the top of your head a load of stuff that you obviously gets made in China, and then we'll go around the room?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, so just quickly, like a lot of it is like stuff like metalwork is really good. And a lot of the towns out there specialize on one particular thing. So like, for example, Moradabad, which is like 2 hours outside Delhi. They just specialize in like metalwork. So you can often find a lot of these manufacturers in the same town. But yeah, so metalwork like copper, brass, iron, aluminium, that sort of thing. Then there's also things like basketware, wicker, wood and carving wood and things like that. Really high quality leather I found as well. And a lot of that is sourced in India as well. So yeah, like Tim said, some of the stuff comes outside, but a lot of it comes from inside India as well, like the leather. So mostly it's really nice things that you'd find in like the posh homeware shops. That's what I found. So yeah, like I said, outside, like a lot of the stuff I make, you wouldn't think was out of place if you found it in John Lewis or somewhere like that.
Yeah, makes sense. Meghla, do you want to add there?
Yeah, so a couple of other categories that come to mind. Organic cotton, that is a huge category, and especially there are a few towns or cities in South India that specialize in cotton. So there's a city, Tirupur, that does a lot of knitted and also woven cotton. And also, what else? Wooden products. I don't know if you covered that, Teddy. So a lot of wooden handicraft, home decor, furniture as well. And then eco-friendly products. I think that's a big category. Yeah, mango wood, yeah. And then eco-friendly products. So there are things like disposable dinnerware that's made from sugarcane waste or areca palm leaves. Those are pretty popular. And then I think food items, that's another one. So there are a lot of herbs and spices and, ingredients or
tea, obviously.
Tea, coffee, yeah. And also things like turmeric and other spices, herbs that are considered, superfoods.
Makes sense. Tim, any to add there?
Meghla, it's pronounced herbs, not herbs.
Herbs.
So I want to talk about import products, right? And what I mean is, in China, like if I were going to get a homeware product made of oak, you can't get it. Oak grows basically in Europe and North America. That's it. But India, even though it doesn't grow there, India is easily able to import raw materials from Europe. Okay, so like I can get stuff made from oak in India, where I couldn't get stuff made from oak or walnut in China. Another thing is the leather. Because of the social prominence and importance of cows, it's extremely difficult to get cow leather in India, right? That's like locally sourced cow leather. So a lot of the leather products that I started having made in India actually came from water buffalo. And it was really, really high quality leather, like amazing, amazing stuff. Now you can find really high quality cow leather in India, but it's usually imported from France or Italy, right? So you can actually get legit Italian leather products made in India. That's like some of the nicest quality stuff I've ever seen for extremely, extremely fair prices, right? Just know that if you're looking at leather, if it's locally sourced leather, it's probably water buffalo, but they can easily import from places like Italy, Spain, Portugal, much easier than like China could.
Makes sense. Margaret, is there any to add there? We covered quite a lot. Is there anything that stood out for you?
There's a couple that we've actually come across searching for suppliers for the Viz show, and one was Finebone China, which I was so surprised because I was under the impression that you couldn't get anything but sort of like more clay type coffee mugs because of the soil that was in India. But we came across this factory that actually imports all the ingredients from England across, and they make the most superb Finebone China that they make for Wedgwood and all the top name companies. So surprisingly enough, a lot of that is made in India. They have a huge factory. And I think too, the wood and the mango wood we've just sort of discussed, I think that is probably something that's fairly underrated. Everyone gets, bamboo cheese boards and everything made out of China. But the mango wood is a lot more sustainable because it's obviously a mango tree that's finished its growth in 10 or 12 years, and then it's chopped down and used again, what's left, instead of, I suppose, just destroying it, it's remade into, you could make beautiful cheese boards because it is a lot more, I suppose, waterproof than bamboo. It's not going to split and crack as much. It's a really good product. So I think those sort of things people don't really know enough about until you get involved in it a lot more and see what else there is. And look, we've come across, I've got Himalayan salt products and things that I've been speaking to suppliers, that you don't realise that they make all these things until you start digging a little bit deeper, which we're doing. So it's been a great experience, and we constantly find new things and go, wow, I didn't think I'd ever get that out of India. Because when I first went to India, even though we'd seen our products, I imagined that the Delhi fair was going to be going into, one of those little Indian bazaars that just has brass candle holders and incense burners. And that was what I was sort of thinking, God, what are we going to find when we get to this show? But I mean, everyone would know what we seen there last year was just amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go on.
Sorry, just a couple of other categories. So home furnishings, that's a huge category. And then glassware, we recently interviewed a couple of suppliers from the city of Firozabad that specialize in glassware. And then there's also ceramics. So there's another city in the north that specializes in ceramic products now.
Yeah, makes sense. Saibi, which currencies are preferred in India? He's saying, can we pay in GBP or in euro? Teddy?
I pay for everything in dollars when I source in India.
Okay. Same with everyone else, pretty much. Just convert it and then,
US dollars. Yeah. Well, they bill you in, everything's quoted in US dollars.
USD. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will.
Sometimes I've been quoted in rupees as well.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So
has there been any benefits there you've seen from that?
I think if I was Indian maybe, and I could speak like Hindi or something, maybe I'd have a benefit. They see a white guy and they saw me coming.
So logistics. So we'll finish up on this point here. But what's the difference, would you say, with logistics for China versus India? Is there any big differences? Kicking it over to Meghla first.
Yeah, so logistics, I think in China, it's definitely smoother, faster, more efficient. In India, there are a lot of different challenges. So, for example, the ports are maybe not that efficient. There's some bureaucracy, red tapeism, and all over there. And then the roads and infrastructure is not very well developed as it is in China. So maybe if your factory is more inland, it might take longer to get your product to the port. Also things like, the monsoon season, that affects things a lot. So especially the city of Mumbai, where one of the main ports is, that gets flooded during the monsoon season for a couple of days, and, everything comes to a standstill. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that I would say, maybe the overall shipping times are slightly longer than they are in China. But otherwise things do work, but they're just a bit slower, I would say.
Yeah. Tim, looks like you were nodding there. Is there anything you want to add there?
Yeah, China has a port in every city.
Yeah.
There's 7,326 ports between Shanghai and Guangzhou, it seems like, in China. In India, it seems like no matter where your product is made, if you're shipping ocean, it has to go to Mumbai. So if you're making something at like the very northern border, it seems like it's got to be trucked to Mumbai because that's just the main container port. And the other thing about India is there really aren't any ships that go straight from India to the U.S. Generally, the way those shipping, especially from Mumbai, generally the way those shipping routes run is they run from Mumbai up to the Middle East, and then you have to transship. So you have the containers come off the boat, they get put on another boat, and then transferred out from the Mediterranean Sea to the east coast of the U.S. So for us shipping, it doesn't matter. The freight forwarders handle all that, but it does take longer. There's no such thing as a fast boat from India to the U.S. And excluding fast boats in India, or from China, it's usually 28 days. India, it's about 40, 45 generally, as long as things go smoothly and there's not a big transshipment problem. Another thing is humidity, right? If everything's shipping out of Mumbai is like one of the most humid places in the world, especially when you get into monsoon season. So one thing that I learned in India was that a lot of the freight forwarders use dehumidification packets. I'd never heard of this in China. And I first ran into it with leather, because if you ship leather in a wet container, it'll get moldy, right? Yeah. So you can get freight, and the freight forwarder is familiar with this. They're big boxes that are like, remember those little silica packs that you like find in your purse or something you buy? Imagine like a big box of those, and they shove 2 or 3 of those in your container. So if you're shipping out of Mumbai, I always suggest that because it will reduce the humidity in the container. And then, there's one more thing I was going to say, and I completely brain farted. Can't remember what it was. Well, I think
so we can come back to that. Teddy, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so on the ship, it takes a bit longer. You're right, it does. But I actually just got a ship for 25 days direct to the USA. So maybe it is changing a bit more, and it's things are getting a bit faster recently. That less left than like just a week ago. So, but one thing is a lot of Chinese towns are like on the coast. So a lot of the stuff is manufactured on the coast. It goes straight into the port. A lot of Indian cities are like inland. So you've got to factor in getting to the port as some extra time.
The trucking.
And if the trucking, and what Tim was saying about the low MOQs, like that's true. Like one of my first orders, I did 25 of each color just because I was testing it. Amazing. You definitely wouldn't be able to do that in China. But if I was doing such an order, they charged me to get it to the port, which you might need to factor in. It was about $100 or something like that. The other thing was packaging is really important in India because the roads aren't great. So these lorries are like bouncing around a little bit. Like if you've got glass and stuff, just make sure they're properly wrapped. Just pay a bit extra attention to that.
Yeah. Margaret?
Yeah, well, I think like we've discussed, the road transport in India, like most, if it's up at Jaipur or Agra or, Delhi, Moradad, it's going to take probably 4 days to get down to Nhava Sheva, and the ships tend to go once a week. But I find we always ship in 21 days. We learnt the hard way. The first time we went into the West Coast and we went to Korea and got unloaded and got stuck on the port for weeks, and it took us so long to get through. But now we go direct from Nhava Sheva into New Jersey or New York, and 21 days from when the ship leaves. It's very seldom been held up under than 21 days. So that's now our rule, and we do that. And we've done 7 or 8 shipments, and it's always, except for the first one where we learned never to go to the West Coast again. We haven't had any issues with that. So I think, but people need to just plan. I think if you're going to source out of India, you've got to think it's going to take a little bit longer to get my product made. It's going to take I think another 2 weeks probably on shipping from China at least. But it's forward planning. So you've got to really think, I need this now. And I tend to do, at the moment, I'm doing an order every 6 weeks. So I do like a rolling order, and I just say, right, I need this to leave that date. I need this to leave the port that date. I need this to leave the port that date. And if you do that and you plan ahead, you don't, have so many issues. But if you sort of leave everything to the last minute, that's where it's just forward planning. And once you get that first shipment rolling, I think you're right after that. It's just allowing for that time.
Cool. So to finish off, go around the room, give us 2 or 3 things, starting with you, Meghla, key things from obviously sourcing from India.
Yeah, I think sourcing from India is very advantageous. There are just so many beautiful, unique products that you can find in India that you cannot find in China at all. So I would strongly encourage people to, look at India. There are a lot of cool products that you can do that would help differentiate your brand on Amazon.
Yeah. Tim?
2 things. The first one is I remembered the logistics thing. India is so forward thinking when it comes to environmental protection and things like that they have outlawed shrink wrap on pallets, which is really, really cool. So when you're going to ship, if your freight forwarder, if your supplier or something gives you some weird packaging requirements, you say, hey, I want this stuff shrink wrapped on pallets. They can't do it. That's for real, but they can get creative by like using palm leaves to wrap pallets. I've actually received packages wrapped in palm leaves and twine, which is kind of cool. But the main thing is kind of a final thing is, no matter what you're doing, whether it's sourcing from anywhere else, but even India, and especially India, treat people like you want to be treated, right? Give people time, have some patience, build a relationship. Don't be a turd, being super demanding and expecting things. Have some humility and understand there's a lot you've got to learn. I've seen people try to source from India, you get so pissed off, like, well, these people didn't know what an FN SKU was. Well, you may be dealing with a factory that's never heard of anything of selling on Amazon. Like, they have to learn too. So have some humility, realize you don't know it all. You don't know what they know. You've got to learn things like the monsoon seasons and the humidity and the roads, and the things are going to take longer. And I mean, I'm learning stuff every day. I didn't know that there are ships now moving direct, in 21 days. It's something I learned, So just treat people like you want to be treated. Be decent. Realize this is a long-term play, not a get-rich-quick scheme. And remember, there's a lot that we all have to learn still.
Good. Teddy, anything to add here?
Yeah, no, I would say that sourcing from India isn't just, you know, for experienced sellers. I think it's for beginners as well. You know, there's a lot of advantages like with the minimum order quantity that I think you can take advantage of. Like, so like if you're an Etsy seller, for example, and you're looking to go onto Amazon, a lot of the products might fit in with the sort of products that you already make. So I think it's a really good opportunity to find a manufacturer that your competition just won't have found yet, because they'll still be concentrating on sourcing from Alibaba and from China. So I think you can give yourself, it's a real good opportunity to give yourself a competitive advantage that you wouldn't necessarily get just from like, you know, sourcing from Alibaba.
Yeah, makes sense. Margaret?
Yeah, and look, I think you've got a lot of chance to, they're very skilled to have something different made without paying somebody a fortune to draw it all and all that. Like, I've just done my last product and it was like, I need this. And I mean, I'm not a drawer, let me tell you. But we just went back and forwards. This is what I want. And he'd come, you know, go away to his sort of little men down and they just make things on the spot for you, bring it back up really rough and show, is this sort of what you mean? So I think you can do that. Whereas, you know, with China, they just wouldn't be able to cope with that. I mean, they couldn't even cope with making a box the right size for us because they don't read our die lines and things. So it's a big difference. So I think you can get what you want very, you know, with a bit of communication, and because they understand what you're telling you, it's so easy to communicate something that you want. So I think you can have something really different, made of different wood or different metal, whatever it is, and come away with something that's really unique, and it'll have a backstory, because most of those people will have a, you know, our supplier's been going since 1898. So, you know, it's something that you can put into your EBC content or your brand content. So you've got, you know, things that you can't sell out of China, and all those things can then add dollars to what you can sell it for, because you're selling something unique, something that's got history to it, or it might be the eco-friendly, or the you know, women in the camps that are making the products and all these things. So I think there's so much more opportunity to differentiate very easily and to, you know, sort of command a much better price point.
Makes sense. Got off-topic question here. Hi all. I have a question off topic. Sorry. Are you guys here? We'll get your thoughts on this, please. We need to get FCC certification for electronic products. He says the reason I'm asking is my supplier's FCC for one product and product 2, but they don't have the FCC for product number 3. The product number 3 is the same as 1 and 2, but only the outer design is different from the first 2. Do I need to make sure this should have FCC cert for product number 3 as well? Anyone got an answer for that?
Not me.
No idea.
Any product that transmits a signal must have FCC. If it's Bluetooth, if it's radio, if it's wireless.
He's saying that. So he's saying the guts of it is regulated because they're similar to the other two. It's the outer casing that's slightly different.
That's in the US. I don't know about other countries, but if your electronic product transmits a signal, you better have FCC.
Yes, cool. Hopefully, and now you've got an answer there. Right, we're going to shut off shortly. I'll be back on Sunday. I just want to quickly mention this before we say goodbye to everyone. I'm doing a sellers Q&A. So we're going to bring in sellers from the community, doing 6 figures and above and very active, and we will help them pick apart their business with an expert panel. All you got to do is email me, danny@sellersessions.com. And then these will take place on the Tuesday, and I'll build the panel based around those questions. So it's almost like you're getting coaching from a number of different people from different angles. So drop me an email or inbox me on here. We'll say our goodbyes now. Meghla, do you want to let people know how they can reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way is to join my group. So just search for Sourcing from India, Amazon FBA on Facebook, and join the group.
Excellent. Tim?
Private Label Agent Facebook group.
Excellent. Teddy?
It's social media. It's just Teddy A.G. Smith, like LinkedIn, Instagram, or you can find my agency on AceListing.co.
Cool. And finally, Margaret?
Look, you can either just contact me through the sourcing, Meghla's sourcing trip. I'm quite active in that, or catch me on Facebook Messenger.
Excellent.
I'm around.
Cool. Thank you for all your input today. It's been great, guys. I'll see you again on Sunday. Stay safe. Take care of your family, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. Bye.